The wife of a U.S. diplomat has admitted responsibility to hitting and killing a British motorcyclist while driving in the U.K.
45-year-old Anne Sacoolas pleaded guilty to careless driving via video link today. She was behind the wheel of the vehicle when it collided with 19-year-old Harry Dunn outside of a U.S. military base in August of 2019. Sacoolas had diplomatic immunity asserted by the U.S. government following the crash. That decision caused a rift between the U.S. and British officials. She went on to leave the U.K. just 19 days after the incident. CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab joins us now from London for more on this. Imtiaz, welcome.
Nikki, Lana, so good to talk to you. Well, what an extraordinary day. I was in court with the family, the Old Bailey, where the woman who admitted to killing their son, Anne Sacoolas, pled guilty. This really capped off a 3-year epic journey for justice for this family. In fact, we have to remember that over this past 3 years, this family, who would describe themselves as an ordinary family from an ordinary town in England, wound up all the way in the White House with former President Trump to Whitehall, which of course is where government offices are here in the UK, in what has been described as a major diplomatic incident really between these two countries, because Anne Sacoolas was given diplomatic immunity in the days following that crash which killed Harry Dunn. Now, I spoke with Charlotte Charles, the mother of Harry Dunn, just moments after Anne Sacoolas pled guilty to that charge, and I asked her, where did she find the strengths over these past 3 years when so many things have happened, where so many hurdles had to be jumped to get to this day of judgment? And here's what she said.
You know, when he was killed, and I made that promise in front of family and friends in the hospital, I had no idea how long it was going to take, or how much strength it was going to need. But I was damn well willing to give it a go, even when I found out that the difficulty was going to be far harder than I imagined. But that promise kept that gut burning, and I was never going to give up.
So emotional and so powerful, and it really just underscores the strength of this family throughout this ordeal, an ordeal in which they say that their fight for Harry, their fight for justice, has finally come to an end.
Imtiaz, you talked a little bit about the significance of Sacoolas' decision to plead guilty. Why did she choose that route, do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we have to consider this really, again, has been this extraordinarily 3-year process between the UK government and the British government, and really trying to find a way to see Anne Sacoolas go through a legal process in which the family said that they have wanted from the very beginning. Their quest for justice has been for Anne Sacoolas, in their words, to be treated like anyone else who involved in a situation like this. For them, it wasn't a quest of punishment, it really was a quest for justice. But when it comes to Anne Sacoolas specifically and how it led to this point, we have to remember back in 2020, the British courts essentially charged Anne Sacoolas with dangerous driving. Now, she has since then pled guilty to a lesser charge of careless driving. That's still a pretty serious charge. It could see her serve up to 5 years in prison. But I think there was an agreement, and what we understand is that there was an agreement reached between the UK and the US in which Anne Sacoolas could appear via video link, which she did do. We could see her very clearly on the screen, in which she was asked if she does plead guilty to the charge of careless driving, which she did. And we also understand that this charge, if you will, that she agreed to or pled guilty to, well, it was because the family, in conversations with the prosecution, said that they would accept that. In saying that, the judge has some very strong opinions on what Anne Sacoolas should do next, but really this just caps off what the family has been looking for, which is justice for their son.
It's really so heartbreaking to hear that mother thinking about her son.
Yeah, I mean, he was only 19 years old, and I remember his parents were on our CBS This Morning show really fighting for justice. It's taken time.
And Imtiaz, for people who are less immersed in it, remind us all why this was such a controversial case and the larger issues of diplomatic immunity.
Right. So Sacoolas is the wife of a man who was later found out to be a CIA officer who was at RAF Croughton, which is about an hour or so outside of London, which is an Air Force base, but we also understand is an area where intelligence officials from the U.S. are based, because Sacoolas, who herself is understood to, at least at some point in her life, also been an intelligence agent for the U.S. She was conferred diplomatic immunity because she was the spouse of somebody who worked in intelligence and was able to leave the country. Now, the reason this became so controversial is because the question then became is, why is the spouse of somebody who has diplomatic immunity being given that? And that really led this family's quest for justice, and it really led the British government having to scramble to find answers as to why they let Sacoolas leave, given that she was the spouse. And this is really something that this family has put so much pressure on. And you have to really understand, here in the UK, Harry Dunn is a household name. This family has had so much media attention because of this case. Of course, because they went to the US, appearing on shows like CBS Mornings, and indeed that leading to that extraordinary visit to the White House where they met with President Trump, who had Sacoolas waiting in an adjoining room to meet with this family. Now, the family did not meet with Sacoolas back in 2019. They said that they just simply could not face the woman who has now pled guilty to killing their son in this car accident, saying that they needed therapists and they wanted mediators there, and just simply could not do it, and later described it, frankly, as a publicity stunt. But since then, they have just pushed and pushed and pushed, trying to get answers. In fact, President Biden, shortly after he was elected, he came here to the UK for the G8, and he was also asked about this. And so it really gives you a sense of just how this family, again, what they would just describe themselves as just an ordinary family, because this mother made this promise to her loved ones that she would get justice for her son, took her on this extraordinary journey. And for them, they now have justice. Sacoolas has pled guilty. But I should say very quickly that this legal case is not over. The sentencing, which has been scheduled for the 28th of November, will go ahead. The judge presiding over this case has urged Sacoolas to come here to the UK for that sentencing. And the judge said something quite interesting in court when she said that. She said a lot of what she will be weighing on what kind of sentence Sacoolas will receive will be what kind of remorse Sacoolas shows. And she said that if Sacoolas appears in court, that to the judge would be a sign of great remorse, and that could perhaps impact the kind of sentence she could get. In fact, a sentence which could possibly mean no jail time at all. Now, we haven't heard anything from Sacoolas' camp as to whether or not she will travel here to the UK, but the judge herself said that she has no legal will to compel Sacoolas to come here to the UK to face justice, or that rather her sentencing, but that they hope that she does.
All right, Imtiaz, our thoughts with the Dunn family. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.